Greetings from the World Ethanol Biofuels Conference in Brussels. I'm joined by Doug Durante of the Clean Fuels Development Coalition. How are you doing, Doug?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
So, in your presentation, you talked a lot about the recent approval of year-round E15 in the US, but I got the sense that you're not entirely satisfied with that as a move. So where should we go next with the ethanol in the USA?
Well, what we had was an announcement by the president that he would direct our Environmental Protection Agency to develop a rule that would allow E15. So it wasn't an instantaneous granting of E15, and so those rules take time. They're somewhat controversial. They're open to comments. There's a number of procedures they have to go through. So it's not an automatic measure, and the key to that is to hope that it's ready in time for next year when the restriction would have taken place. So that's why we're less than jumping up and down at this point.
And another change that's happened in the US is the EPA's new fuel economy standard. Does that create an opportunity for biofuels, in your opinion?
Absolutely. Very excited about that, and I'll tell you why. The fuel economy standards, it's not just getting more mileage per gallon, but you have to do it while emitting less carbon. So one of the ways you do that is to increase the compression of automobiles, which requires higher octane. And one of the things that ethanol has that not a lot of people focus on is the highest octane additive that you could put into gasoline. So it's very valuable for octane, plus it's low carbon. So because this new EPA regulation coming out is going to be a combination of efficiency and greenhouse gas reductions, we think ethanol is going to be a great fit. So yeah, we're very excited that it could be a new opportunity.
And something else you touched on in your presentation was the keyword security. So I was wondering, at this juncture in particular, with increasing tensions with Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia, where do you see ethanol in securing America's energy independence?
I see it as a very valuable component. I have to be very honest with you, I'm not sure it's appreciated enough. You know, one of the things that's interesting about ethanol is that at any given time it has different value propositions, and when oil is very expensive and we're unable to get it, energy security is a big thing. When it's cheap, you don't think about it. We've lost a little bit of that momentum because we're drilling so much oil ourselves in the western states. So I think it is very important. We're at 10% of our fuel is ethanol, so if you were to take that away, you'd have to make it up somewhere. So I think it is very important, and it's an important factor I hope we don't lose sight of, but that's up to us in the industry to keep reminding people that that's not to be forgotten. So.
And while we're on the subject of politics, I think something that's come up a lot in this year's conference is the China tariffs. I wonder what you think US ethanol producers can do if they want to survive the period of the tariffs and come out well on the other end.
A lot of our producers are working very hard with our Department of Agriculture and the U.S. Grains Council. I know we're going to have a U.S. Grains person here tomorrow, and then there's a follow-up meeting the day after. They're working very hard to develop some of these overseas markets. So it's we're going to have to make that up somewhere. And we talked about that in our panel today. And okay, one way is to find new markets. The other way is to use more at home. So that's more what I'm familiar with, and that was so much a focus of my presentation, to get blends up to 20, 25, 30%. And that way it would offset any pain that might be caused by this Chinese situation. But there's no doubt these tariffs are creating quite a bit of turmoil for everybody involved. And it's one of the things I don't like about relying too much on exports is they can be gone, in an instant. With any executive decision on either end can turn that around. So we're going to have to find new markets, but also increase our markets at home.
And if we look at decarbonization, it isn't all about the blend rate. It's also about how much of a GHG saving you can get from the specific feedstock you're using. So if you look at corn in the US at the moment, how high are the GHG savings? What progress is being made pushing those up?
Great question, and we have great answers to that. Last year I was here in my presentation, I was asked to talk specifically about low carbon fuel standards, how we might fit into that. And we're getting a lot of new data on the value of corn. And one of the things that we don't get enough value for is that as this industry has grown, it's caused corn farmers in the U.S. to be more efficient. So we're growing more corn on less land with less fertilizer inputs, which improves your carbon footprint. but in fact it's much greater than we even thought. So we've got some new data that suggests that the root of a corn stalk is several feet longer than we had previously thought. Well, now the sequestration and its ability to pull carbon out of the air is much greater and retain the soil. So we think we're on the verge of getting a whole new report card on the carbon footprint of corn that's going to be appreciably better than what we've had in the past. And if that happens, then we're going to be able to participate in some of these low carbon fuel programs. And I think when all things are considered, we're going to really be able to rival some of these other technologies. So we're excited about that. But it's just a question of modeling and what the assumptions are, what the inputs are. And a lot of these are based on old data that needs to be refreshed.
All right, that's great to hear. Thanks for your time, Doug.
Okay, very much. Thank you.